everybody, and welcome to Blue Jays Today. We got the Blue Jays Today show, and on this show today, everybody, there are MLB trades happening, literally trades happening while we're setting up for this show right now, and they all could have implications on Blue Jay trades coming in the next 4 days. But before we get into all that, there's going to be a lot of discussions about that on this show. We got to talk about Chris Bassitt and what he said after getting pummeled by the Tampa Bay Rays. Kind of being pretty honest, and I do respect Chris Bassitt a lot for being honest. We're going to get into those comments that he made and more in this one. I'm your host, Adam Peddle.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog. And you can tell the frustration is just boiling over with these players, right? Like they know what this season is. They know that it's dead in the water, and they're upset about it because they are not playing well, and then their teammates are also not playing well. And Chris Bassitt is effectively calling everyone out on it, and seriously,
Facts.
Like it's like
Facts.
At this point, it's like we don't like I don't like to hear it when a guy has a couple bad games and then one of the other players gets on him immediately. It's like, no, you got to have each other's back, but being 3-4 months into this thing and still being complete ass and just getting worse, and then losing 13-0 in embarrassing fashion. Boos are getting rained down by the fans. It is time to be, calling everyone out and calling yourself out as well. So I want to start off with that and get into what it is that he had to say. Welcome into everybody who's watching right now. If you haven't already done so, hit the like, smash the subscribe button. Chris Bassitt, excuse me, I was going to say Chris Paddock, not Chris Paddock. Chris
That was good.
Bassitt, actually, in that game yesterday, loses 13-0.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's devastating,
horrible.
man. It's a terrible, terrible game, and indicative of the season as a whole. Comes out afterwards. You want to quote him here?
Yeah. Basically, Chris Bassitt. I love this line right here. Chris Bassitt. This was written by CTV News. They've had us on a few times, so shout out to those guys. He says, Chris Bassitt declared everyone in the Toronto Blue Jays organization should bear the blame for its shoddy season.
Yeah.
And he basically goes on and say, I would say there's not a single person in probably the whole organization who is not disappointed right now. It just sucks. I don't think anyone thought this was going to happen. Obviously, I think we all had a little bit more of hopium coming into this season. And he really does blame everybody. He says, I don't think there's one person with clean hands right now. And again, this means the whole organization. So he's talking about, could be talking about John, could be talking about Ross, could be talking about a lot of things, right? And he says, I really don't think we've done well this year, except, well, maybe for Dalton Varsho's defense. Right. I mean, we've seen highlight reel after highlight reel play for Dalton Varsho's defense. But if that is what our only good thing is this season, then yes. It is a terrible season.
And I love the final thing right here saying that besides Varsho's defense, I don't see how anyone can say I've done what I should. And I think that's something that we've come back to time and time again. When you look at everyone across the board, not really any Toronto Blue Jay player. I guess you could argue Vladdy. Recently. Vladdy recently.
IKF, he's been hurt, but IKF too.
Yeah,
there's a couple, but really,
a couple guys who are kind of touching what you'd hope them to touch and where you hope them to be. But for no one's really exceeding expectations, and for a large part of everybody, they are doing much worse than that. So I'm really happy to hear that Chris Bassitt is calling people out on this. I'm actually kind of surprised, man. I was thinking about this right before we started recording. I'm kind of genuinely surprised that whether it be a Chris Bassitt or whether it be somebody else, nobody has requested a trade away from the Toronto Blue Jays. You'd think somebody like a Chris Bassitt, especially, right, when he's coming out, when he's feeling this way, which is completely valid, right? I mean, everyone on this team has sucked. Everyone's, got their hands dirty. Nobody's doing a great job. And you are 35, and you do have 1 year left. And even though you haven't been playing the best of your game, you're still doing good enough, right? I'm kind of surprised that he hasn't requested a trade away,
I'm somewhat surprised, maybe not so much surprised, just because, there's other factors, of course, like Chris Bassitt has his own charity donation thing going on here in Toronto that, he has that set up here. He's got his family set up here. And I think when he signed with Toronto, intended to finish out his tenure here, at least, knowing he's got one more year. But it doesn't take away the fact that he is probably still very upset and doesn't really want to play on a losing team, like many people don't want to play on a losing team. But I do agree. Chris Bassitt, the one thing I'll say, even though I do think it's a smart idea to trade him this season, I think I give him a lot of props for being honest, because there's not a lot of honesty on this organization.
No, man.
At all.
like I guess what makes me so frustrated about everything that we've seen so far this year is like Chris Bassitt is coming out and saying it and calling it how it is. And
nobody else.
No, like Ross
Nobody
Atkins,
else.
never. John Schneider has occasionally come out and said, it's like, okay, we got to be better. Like we're not doing what we should in the, in these counts, or we keep getting into bad spots and whatever. Okay, so sure. But, even he's not really come out and said, it's like, yeah, we are playing like ass. I am calling a bad game.
I'm calling a bad game. I made a wrong decision.
Yeah, it's like, that's never really happened. And Ross Atkins especially, right? Like, I still remember, a month and a half ago or so when we were hearing that, he'd seen encouraging things. And then we proceeded to take a complete nosedive down the standings. And we haven't actually really heard from Ross Atkins in a while.
He's silent, guys.
Yeah, I think he's, that is,
I think he knows.
That is a calculated decision. But it is ridiculous that the only the only person who is really being honest on this team is, our 35-year-old vet, Chris Bassitt, and, that kind of sucks.
Chris Bassitt to take over Pete Walker in 2026, guys. That's what I'm saying. After his contract ends, let's keep him here in Canada, make him the pitching coach, and he'll call it how it is. Yeah, this staff has been ass, or whatever it might be at the time. Hopefully this staff's been amazing, and I'm a phenomenal pitching coach.
Yeah, you would hope so, man. But, I mean, he is... He's calling people out on their shit, and you love to see that, man, because if the GM's not going to do it, somebody has to. Let's move on and, sorry. You have
I actually wanted to bring this one up first. I know we had it in a certain order. I wanted to bring this one up first, guys. Real breaking news right now. Literally 15 minutes before we went live. Yeah, 15 minutes before we went live. The Boston Red Sox have acquired left-handed pitcher James Paxton in a trade with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, this is very significant, I think, for the Toronto Blue Jays because the man who's taking the bump tonight, Yusei Kikuchi, is very comparable to James Paxton. We're still waiting to see what kind of deal we have in return. If someone sees it, I think we are getting a little bit more details. Let's break it down this trade a little bit more, then we'll get into details. But point being is, whatever they're getting in return could be eerily similar for what a Yusei Kikuchi can get in return.
Let's bring up James Paxton's stats and then also compare them to Yusei Kikuchi just to show you guys exactly how close this actually is, folks. So Paxton, 35 years old, so an older guy for sure. He's pitched in 89.1 innings. He's got a 4.43 ERA. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that is pretty much right where Yusei Kikuchi's is on the season. And then also something that I wanted to look at, we looked at right before this, which instills me with a lot of confidence that this deal, whatever it's going to be, should be extremely accurate to what Yusei Kikuchi will be worth, is the fact that he started out in April and in May, really, really good. And then June rolled around and he kind of fell off the table, which is exactly what has happened with Yusei Kikuchi.
Literally.
So you are looking at, a lot of parallels here between Yusei Kikuchi. I mean, the ERA is 10 points off. Kikuchi's got a couple more innings, so maybe that counteracts it. A tiny bit of a lower whip.
And also, he's a lefty too. Sometimes people pay different prices for righties, lefties. They're both lefties.
The lefty, like the lefty thing could help. And then very similarly, great in April, great in May, terrible in June, terrible in July.
And literally the same number on the front, 6 and a 5. So it can't get any more accurate,
It is
right?
as close as it could be right here. So James Paxton, whatever the return is, should actually be extremely indicative as to what Yusei Kikuchi will bring back for the Toronto Blue Jays, assuming that Ross Atkins can, in fact, do his job and negotiate enough. It looks like you got something right now.
Yeah, we got the official return for what James Paxton got. For those LA Dodgers. Red Sox will be sending a lower level minor leaguer as the return for James Paxton. So not a prospect. Who is the guy here? I'm looking for the name of the guy. I believe Moses Bolivar.
Oh, man.
Do you hear that, everybody?
Oh.
A lower minor leaguer is coming over. Well, let's not judge him just yet.
Okay.
Let's take a look at what the return for James Paxton or a Yusei Kikuchi could look like.
Oh, boy.
All right, we got a 17-year-old. It looks like he literally was just signed internationally. I'd be curious to see if someone could scoop up some information in the chat on this guy. I would be curious to see, how much did they pay him? What was his deal? Because if he was, highly touted, then maybe I understand this.
Right.
But yeah, he really hasn't done anything. He's been in rookie ball.
Done anything at all. It's a complete question mark, guys.
Complete question mark.
Maybe he could become something one day, years and years and years from now. but also to me looks like somebody that you might never hear from ever again.
You might never. I'm looking, and I really, I went. I don't even know what to say. Moses Bolivar signing, and literally nothing in the news category to report.
People are saying as well, keeping in mind that James Paxton was in fact, put on waivers, DFA'd, right? That's a real thing that happened, right? So we, factor that in. Maybe there was a little bit of a, hey, we don't even want him anymore type thing. It's like, that would,
that could also
impact the return a little bit.
Could also be definitely. I did find it here. He got a $25,000 signing bonus, so not highly touted at all.
No. Okay, tough. So that is really tough. Everybody.
That is really tough.
Yeah. So
how are you feeling?
I'm feeling like I felt yesterday, man.
Yep,
I mean, I've been
coming true.
I've been down. I've been really down on what the return is going to be, and I keep saying, it's like, don't get your hopes up for a big return with these guys. It's like, because all of them are playing like shit at the worst possible time. Chris Bassitt is even calling it out. I mean, if that's what James Paxton got, and yes, he was,
he was DFA'd for sure.
That's definitely got to be a factor. But you have to imagine that him and Yusei Kikuchi are pretty statistically close, right? Like they are right there neck and neck with each other. If that's the going rate for Paxton, I mean, a Yusei Kikuchi isn't going to be that much better than that.
Like a 28th ranked prospect?
Maybe.
We'll have to see, but that's very upsetting, guys. That is very, very upsetting.
Right? What does that even say about some of the other guys too, like a Justin Turner or I mean, I know we were debating it yesterday, like a Trevor Richards. It's like, if that's what James Paxton gets, it's like, what? Seriously, it's like we got to sell our guys with value. I keep fucking saying it.
I'm gonna come up with a video tomorrow, and my conclusion, spoiler alert, is if we're looking to replenish the farm system, it ain't happening this time.
With what it is that they're saying right now.
It's not happening, or it's going to be another day. Actually, speaking of relievers, let's transition a little bit and look at another deal that the Arizona Diamondbacks pulled off last night for AJ Puck. Not spelled like hockey puck. I thought it was puke, but it's Puck. AJ Puck is a left-handed reliever. He goes over to the Arizona Diamondbacks from the Miami Marlins, and they actually get a pretty interesting return. Number 12 and number 22 ranked prospects for Puck. And one of the guys, we'll get to him in a little bit, is sneakily kind of about to break out and make it to the major league level. But for a guy like AJ Puck, he's got 3 more years of control, so 2025, 2026, and then he's a free agent into 2027. So you got 4.30 ERA, a whip of 1.3, but he's been on a tear as of late in the last little bit. He's been kind of turning it on versus some of our other guys they have not been turning on. Last 28 days, he's got a ERA of 0. So there you go. He's been turning it on heavily. Not only is he a lefty, but it's a lot of control, but they are giving up a significant guy in return. But before we break that down, thoughts on that, just Puck coming over. And that is this guy's kind of not really comparable to any guy that we have.
That's the thing, right?
Which is going to be a hard stretch.
I'd love to make some strong comparisons here, but because they're like that level of control is worth a lot, right?
Yeah,
you're looking
that's what it is.
A 3-year control
and a 29-year-old, which is right in the prime of his career.
I mean, it's almost like, not quite, kind of like an Eric Swanson type thing, right?
A little bit,
right? Where you get a lot of control and you have to trade away a significant piece to go out and to get that. And I imagine that, he went over to the Diamondbacks.
Right? So,
I mean, they must obviously, like the pitching coach there, must think that this is somebody that can work very well with them and that they can develop into someone.
And they have a guy, Paul Sewald's going to be coming off his contract very shortly, and they're hoping that Puck can kind of transition and take over the back half, maybe become part of that back-end rotation. But now I actually want to bring up this guy. And again, it's hard to compare because you have so much control, so much value in an AJ Puck, especially with how good he's been recently. They sold him at the right time. But this guy's kind of blowing up the internet. Shout out to Bennett who tweeted this right here. Davizan De Los Santos. AAA. He's in AAA. So mind you, these are AAA numbers. He's got an OPS of 1.011 with an average of 325, 28 home runs.
I heard that this guy was phenomenal. For a 21-year-old, like a really, really exciting prospect. And again, like I agree with what it is that Ben is saying right here. If this is the market I want everyone gone immediately, because we're seeing like a massive difference between what James Paxton went for and what freaking Puck went for, right?
Can you imagine trading in Chad Green right now?
Exactly.
You could very similarly get potentially get
this. Somebody looking like
very
that,
potential.
right? And I see somebody in the chat right now saying maybe a Hennessy's Cabrera, right?
Maybe a Hennessy's Cabrera.
Like, I'm certainly not saying that Hennessy's or Chad Green is at the same level of what a Puck is at this point. I mean, 0 ERA in 28 days and 3 years of control is massive, but you could get something of value. And, James Paxton, what he just went for, I mean, that literally looks like somebody that you're never going to hear
never.
ever again.
Maybe never.
Literally never, right? So that's like no value in my opinion. Some guys on this roster still have something going for them, and somebody will pay for Hennessy's Cabrera.
Yeah.
Somebody will pay for a Chad Green, right? So, I mean, I fully understand and appreciate that we want to be competitive next year, but if the return is that
like a guy that's ready to go pretty much next season?
28 home runs in AAA.
Hello, Elravis Martinez.
That could literally help us next year.
Yeah, I'm saying it right now. I think Hennessy's Cabrera's got to go, because that's a very straight comparison. Yes, one less year on the contract, but a lefty. Look at the splits too. We know how good he's been in the last 28 days. He's also given up 0 earned runs in 28 days. If they come knocking for Hennessy's Cabrera, you send his ass away immediately. This is the best he's ever performed. We've seen Hennessy's be bad. We've seen him be good. But we are not going to have a good bullpen next year regardless. You send him away. You figure out that later if you're going to get that kind of return.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, man. And again, like the fact that he is a lefty has got to help. It's got to help. Package him together with Yusei Kikuchi. Here's your lefty guys now. You're good.
Yeah, and we literally got Hennessy's for free. We got him for free.
It's just a profit thing. Yes. It's a flipping for profit. I see some people in the chat asking about the Randy Arozarena trade, and that was a pretty big blockbuster, man.
We're going to get into that.
I'm just taking in a little bit as to what that was, but the Seattle Mariners did exactly what it was that we were saying that they needed to do.
Yes,
and
literally.
This is the first step of, if I was a fan of them, what I would hope to be many at this trade deadline. But this is an incredible first move for them. This is exactly what they needed to do. They shipped off their 12th ranked prospect and their 22nd ranked prospect, brought in Randy. He started off the season abysmally, just like fucking terrible.
Right.
But he has turned it around in a big way recently, and we all know what type of player Randy Arozarena can be when he is operating at that high level, and we've seen him perform in the playoffs as well. So I think this is a great move for them. I'm honestly a little surprised at the amount that they had to get, or like lack thereof. Of the amount that they need to give up. Maybe it really was just, due to the fact that this season has been a pretty big down year for him. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, is it 1 year that he's got additional after this?
I believe it's 2. I think
two more additional years, eh?
I think it could be 3.
Interesting.
I say, hold on. Let me look it up. But yeah, I think the Seattle Mariners fleeced.
I think that this is a great move here by the Seattle Mariners. Maybe they were taking advantage of the fact that if Randy Arozarena is getting into those higher ARB years,
2 more years.
2 more years after this. Yeah, so 2 more years after this. We know how those Tampa Bay Rays are when it comes to money, and when you start to get into those ARB years, you are a guy like Randy Arozarena, who's got a bit of a track record, Rookie of the Year, you might start getting paid money, and I think that the Seattle Mariners just saw a great opportunity to kind of take them for a ride, and that's what they did.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Again, we kind of mentioned this last night that some organizations just have a disadvantage, and I think, Seattle Mariners saw that where, I mean, who are you going to trade him to? You know what I mean? Like, this is the best offer. Like, what if everybody knows this and everyone knows that we're not going to offer you everything that you possibly could want? I think it's a huge fleece, and apparently the Seattle Mariners aren't done yet. They want to add another power bat, and they want to add some back-end bullpen guys.
Which is exactly what we were saying that they should do.
Exactly.
Again, like they're doing it right. They got the best pitching in baseball. You go out, you get your offense. Now, Randy Arozarena is a good start. You need to get somebody else. Come take a Justin Turner from us if you want that guy,
Hell yeah, take Turner. We'll give you Hennessy's Cabrera, except you better be offering up a little bit more, because according to Bleacher Report, the Mariners have like the #1 prospect system in all of baseball right now. Maybe that's why a little bit lower on the rankings. Maybe they have a little bit more juice,
Maybe that
in their
number 12
system.
guy is actually very, very good.
Very good.
We're not familiar with all their guys.
I looked them up, and like they're kind of rookie ball level kind of guys right now, so they're not like super or single A too. They're not like super up there. really like anywhere close. I think one was projected 2027, one was projected 2026. So like both those guys aren't even close. I'd want a little bit, well, maybe I'm being greedy. I'd want a little bit more like return for if you're going to send a package deal.
Well, it all depends who we're sending, because we really don't have anybody, like we don't have anyone of Randy.
That's fair. What am I even fucking saying right now?
You need the only guy that we could possibly trade away that would get a return more than that would be Guerrero.
You send him Chad Green.
You know?
Send him Chad Green.
You could send him Chad Green. He won't be a level like that though.
No. That's actually what I'm saying. Actually, I don't want to trade you, Mariners. I don't want to trade you. I'm going to take back everything I just said, because you guys are going to try to fleece me. I don't want to. You know when the guy's trying to fleece you in fantasy and you're like, we're wasting our time here.
Well,
I could go fleecing the other guy.
Look,
the Miami Marlins.
I would love to fleece the Miami Marlins if we could.
We're in the same category as the Miami Marlins.
Exactly right. I mean, I think that the Randy Arozarena trade is a really good move for them. I think that the implications that it has on the Jays, like, they're few and far between, just because, again, the only player that I really see is comparable to a Randy Arozarena on the Jays would be a Vladimir Guerrero Jr., like an offensive player who can add thump, that, you got an extra year of control. And I think that is the guy that is probably furthest away from getting moved. I mean, I see some people in here talking about Bo Bichette. Again, like, I wouldn't see that happening. Seattle, for instance, not to, really dive into their team too much, but they need players who can hit now. That's not Bo. So if you do trade Bo, it's going to be at pennies on the dollar.
Mr. Bloopy with a good point here. IKF to Seattle. I mean, that's an interesting point. Because
I was saying that yesterday.
JP Crawford got injured. Even if he does come back, then like he can move over to second. He can move over to third, right? That's been positions that they highly need. Jorge Polanco isn't good. They traded Eugenio Suarez last year. So those are some gaps. I think they could pay up a decent amount.
Sure. I mean, listen, man, if you guys want to give us your 15th ranked prospect for IKF, like, I'll take it.
Yes.
I'll take it and I'll be happy about it.
Yes.
Right? And that's just like what you got to do right now. It's not, would I want more? Sure. But, take what you can get, right? Take what you can get. We have the worst prospect system in all of baseball right now. These guys are looking to buy. They have a desperate need. JP Crawford being injured is massive for us to go take advantage of them.
Yes.
See the writing on the wall and offer them up on IKF.
If they're willing to listen. And this is what's frustrating, man. It's like they have to be willing to do that, because it is the seller's market. I don't care if you want to compete next year. If you can go get fleeced, like if you could fleece what Arizona Diamondbacks did or the Miami Marlins did from the Arizona Diamondbacks, like, go do it.
Well, I want to talk about what San Francisco Giants are doing right now, because I think that this is like this is what I keep saying, about the Toronto Blue Jays and what I want Ross Atkins to come out and do, right? They're talking right now about how the Tigers, they're having no traction with the Skubal deal, probably because, A, they don't want to trade him, and if they did trade him, they'd want everything and then some. So, I mean, obviously a Skubal deal is going to be hard to do regardless, just because he is so damn good. And then also the White Sox, there is a big obstacle there with the Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet has come out and said that he refuses to play to whatever team he gets traded to, because he knows that he's probably going to get traded. Whichever team he gets traded to, he will refuse to play in the postseason if they don't give him an extension or guarantee an extension for him, for the following years, which is just fucking crazy.
Sidebar, not to derail this point, but holy crap, like, Garrett, come on, man. Why are we being a diva right now? And if you do trade him, you made this point before this live stream, you do trade him, that's going to set a precedent. Like, everybody's going to start requiring, extensions before they get play in the playoffs. Like, that's just ridiculous.
Effectively, what I take from that is that if he is fully, like, if he's saying that and he's 100% on it, I don't see him getting moved at all, because exactly that, right? Like, you can't trade for a guy who won't play in the postseason, and then you can't give in to his demands either, because then every other player is going to be, hey, like, I want an extension too. I'm not going to play for you in the playoffs unless you give it to me. And then who says that it's even going to stop at players who get traded, right?
Yeah.
Let's say that let's say Pete Alonso with the New York Mets right now. I'm not playing for you in the playoffs unless you extend me now.
It's the same thing that's happened in football. When I first started watching football like 7 years ago, and I started seeing Bell like holding out, I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, this is a bunch of divas right now. Like, in baseball, we don't have that. It's slowly starting to peek its ugly head into the picture, because you can't let that happen. So you can't have that.
I mean, it's tough to make the full comparison, because again, like with the football and like Josh Bell, or not Josh Bell, excuse me, Le'Veon Bell. I mean, like, running backs are just so criminally underpaid. Like, it is actually ridiculous. So I get that standpoint. This to me is just like we're mid-season, dude. It's like we're playing. If you get sent to a postseason team, and then you refuse to play in the playoffs, like your teammates are gonna hate you. The fan base is gonna hate you. Why would anyone ever want you to play for them ever again?
Yeah,
like,
I wouldn't want to trade for. Can you imagine trading for him and then not extending him, and then he avoids the postseason? I'd boo his ass.
Yeah,
I'd boo his ass in the next season.
Completely ridiculous.
Anyways, but moving on to the point though.
Yeah, the major point here being is if Skubal isn't gonna go, and if Garrett Crochet isn't gonna go because of whatever the fuck this is, well, that means that there's not a whole lot of good starters available, and the San Francisco Giants are doing the intelligent thing right now, seeing the writing on the wall and going, well, hey, like, we have Blake Snell, and let me just be very clear here.
Bad.
Blake Snell is not playing good baseball right now, folks. He's getting paid way too much money for what it is that he is doing, and he has a player option for next year worth $36 million.
38 and a half.
38 and a half, excuse me.
And he obviously is going to take based on how he's playing.
Obviously going to take because his ERA is almost at 6. So they are just seeing the writing on the wall and trying to get to offload this guy. But if Ross Atkins was to go, hey, I mean, this is a seller-friendly market. If I was to, for instance, offer up a Chris Bassitt, I might have the number one wanted guy on the market now. If Skubal's not going, and if Garrett Crochet isn't going, what other pitchers are of the same caliber to Chris Bassitt with an additional year of control?
I think you get a top 5 prospect in someone's system.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, man. It's like
it would be our top 2. It'd be that good because ours is an ass system.
It is so infuriating to me that when you're like, it's not like previous deadlines where there is, like the Justin Verlanders and
Max Scherzers and all that.
So many other players that are available that are really good. There isn't that many guys. You would be trading away Chris Bassitt at the absolute like premium of premiums right now. The LA Dodgers are thinking to themselves going like, fuck me, like who do I want? We didn't want James Paxton. We need guys now.
Yeah, you need pitching.
If we can't get Tariq Skubal and we can't get Garrett Crochet because he wouldn't even play for us in the playoffs, Chris Bassitt. I just, it is so frustrating that they're not trying to do this.
Well, clearly the writing's on the wall, as we were talking about. Go make a move, get back a guy. Because if you got back, let's say you got back a top 2 prospect in our system, because that's what it'd be. We have the worst farm system in baseball, according to Bleacher Report, if you believe it. We have one of the worst. If you go get a top 5 in, let's say, a Mariners system, for example, I'm not saying it would be a Mariners, but like a top 5, top 6 system,
right?
Well, congratulations. Now that's like your number 1 prospect.
Sure, yeah.
That's your number 1 prospect.
It could seriously be, right? I mean, like, at the very least, we have another Addison Barger coming in. Like, that's somebody that I want.
Yes.
That's a player of value, right? Like, this is what we're going to need to be, building the team around of. And I saw something from Keegan Matheson today saying, like, it's audition time now. It's audition time for next year. If you have
go get some new participants in your audition.
Seriously, right? It's like if you can go out and trade Chris Bassitt for a prospect player who could be ready next year, fucking bring them up now. Audition them. Maybe you could actually get a guy who could be part of the team 2025.
And then you dump some payroll, and then you can go and make that Vlad extension. You can go sign a replacement Band-Aid pitcher if you want for like $15 million.
Thank you.
And then that's it.
Thank you.
It doesn't make.
Thank you. It's this is like I just
makes sense.
Wrap my head around why we're not doing this, and I keep coming back to the fact that it feels like Ross Atkins. Like I really think that letting Ross Atkins handle this trade deadline with what we're seeing right now, with the reports that are coming out, we're gonna look back on in 2 years. Even we're gonna look back on in a fucking week actually. And we're gonna be like, that was a huge, massive mistake because we're missing opportunities right now. We're leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. We're leaving money on the table. There's profit to be had right now. We're saying, you know what? No, because we believe in our defensive first system and I want to keep my job. So I'm not going to go out and I'm not going to take this free shit that's just fucking sitting here for me.
It's frustrating, guys. And, I think most likely the writing is on the wall that we're going to go through this whole trade deadline, just send off the 1-year guys, and we're going to be very disappointed. We're going to still suck. We're going to go into next year still sucking, and then we're going to go, oh, now we're going to trade away Chris Bassitt and Chad Green, and now maybe they underperform. Maybe, and they're also going to lose value because they're going to have one less year. It's just shitty. And I don't think Ross Atkins isn't a baseball guy. I don't think he is intelligent enough to play or to run an organization that is in Major League Baseball.
Listen, I'm not going to go so far as to say he's not a baseball guy, because obviously he's a baseball guy. I don't think he's a very good baseball guy.
I don't think he's a baseball guy. I think he's an organizational. I think he's an ownership pleasing guy. He did it in Cleveland. He did it here. He's like, I'm going to do whatever you say, whatever you want me to do. I'm going to please you, but then after that, I have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
I mean, he believes in numbers, and it's like, and are the numbers working? No, because you're not a baseball guy. I'm coming after him right now.
I get
he's ruining it. He's ruining his team.
I do really believe that he's running us into the ground. I really do hope that in the next 72 hours or so before the trade deadline, which we're going to be live for all of on Tuesday and most of Monday and most of Sunday as well. I'm really hoping that, we have a change of heart here, and some reports come out that, in fact, Chris Bassitt is, offers are being heard, and, just more stuff can happen here so we can revitalize this team a bit quicker. Let's talk about that freaking Tampa Bay Rays series, man.
Oh, God.
13-0 yesterday. Like, just a completely abysmal showing. I mean, we don't need to dwell on this too long.
No, we know what happened.
I mean, it's the same shit, different day. That Tuesday game, just not a whole lot of offense going on. On Wednesday, we were actually live for it.
Yeah,
we
were
nice. We win 6-3. We're feeling good.
Optimistic.
We're stringing hits together.
8 hits.
Things are looking up. And then on Thursday, I mean, this is just
look at this,
completely abysmal.
2 hits. I mean, yeah, apparently, the Rays pitcher, Taj Bradley, is on like an incredible scoreless streak.
Sure.
But doesn't matter, man. You can't get 2 hits.
And go to our pitchers, please, because this is the biggest thing, right? I mean, Chris Bassitt, obviously not his best outing ever. 5 innings, 3 earned runs. Trevor Richards has just completely imploded. We made a little side bet yesterday, thinking I don't even think he's going to get moved at this point. I don't think anyone's going to pay for him. You got Ryan Burr that gave up another 4, Nate Pearson giving up 1, and then Ernie Clement even had to come in and pitch, and he gave up 1 as well. But it just a really awful showing from the worst bullpen in baseball.
Awful. Trevor Richards, it'll be interesting to see if he goes. We got a bet, if you guys missed it, 1 beer that we get a singular human being in return for Trevor Richards at the deadline. We'll have to see, but real quick, guys, we got a little bit of breaking news right here. We're going to be doing, this is kind of like a little preview of what you're going to see in the whole live streams and everything. We got a Baltimore Orioles trade.
This is a weird one too, because I see what is going back and forth here.
You got Philadelphia Phillies acquiring Austin Hayes. An outfielder. They did say they need one, and Austin Hayes has been pretty good, a 106 OPS plus, and they'll be sending over reliever Sir Anthony Dominguez and center fielder Christian Pache. Interesting.
Wow, this is something that you don't see every day, guys. Two
competitive teams
that are very much arguably you could even make an argument that the 2 best teams in baseball, honestly.
Yeah, they're World Series matchups.
Sir Anthony Dominguez is not even doing that well right now, but I guess the Orioles are taking a little bit of a flyer here. And
it's got a Christian Pache. We know Christian Pache has been around for a while, bounced around a lot of teams, and very interesting move by how many years left does Hayes have?
Hayes must not have a whole lot, man. He's
29. Check it right there.
Yeah. He will be a free agent in 2026. So
interesting move.
Same thing as Guerrero. Wow.
Kind of shocking. Maybe they have. I don't know. Maybe they just really trying to think they're trying to get behind their thinking here. Like they really needed bullpen. What is he? A right-handed thrower? Not doing good. What's his I guess he's been better in the past.
Let me take a look at what he's been doing recently. If he's been getting a lot better, and
he has not. Good in May and June, not so good in July.
Yeah.
7 games. Interesting stuff there, guys. Wow. I mean, I don't really understand. I'm not too familiar with the Orioles organization and why they needed Christian Pache and Sir Anthony Dominguez, but
I mean, I could see what New Brunswick is saying here. They're just making room for rookies, and I mean that actually could be a real thing, right? Like if Austin Hayes is too good to send down or just do nothing with, so maybe that is what it is. I mean, their system is just so stocked up that they already have guys and like fuck it, like
Right.
We'll take a guy if Dominguez does do good,
Right.
then great. If not, whatever.
Yeah.
But we're gonna bring our rookies up anyways.
Interesting.
Yeah,
It's interesting. Okay, guys, let's keep moving on, guys. In the Blue Jays Today show, as we know, the Blue Jays got thumped, but they've got a chance to thump back the World Series champions. Tonight's Apple TV game, everybody. We're going to be live for it, so if you don't have Apple TV, make sure you check out our live stream on YouTube, 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're going to have potentially the last start as a Toronto Blue Jay.
It should be, man. Like,
unless we don't trade him. That'd be a complete failure.
Unless the Blue Jays don't trade him, which would just be a complete fuck up. Yusei Kikuchi will be getting loose on the bump for the last time up against Andrew Heaney. Cooch's loose shirts will obviously be coming out.
Of course.
This is the last moment in time, guys, that you can get your Cooch's loose shirts. So, I mean, it's going to be a vintage item, folks.
Get your link in the description, guys.
And I mean, I don't really think that this start has too much weight on his trade value. I think obviously it'd be nice to see him have a good start. I think the only way that this would have any weight on his trade value is if he either does fucking incredible or absolutely awful.
It gets hurt.
And gets hurt. You know, like if he was to go like 0.2 innings and giving up like 5 earned runs and then Kikuchi isn't feeling great, like that wouldn't be ideal.
Do you think it's smart that the Jays are pitching him right now?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm actually thinking about that, because I'm thinking even if he has a good start, it's not going to change
much
his value. All you're risking right now is actually just an injury.
Yeah.
I actually don't think it's smart, but then again, like we know that Toronto Blue Jays management is quite stupid, so I guess this does make sense.
Yeah, maybe they're just you're right. You know,
it doesn't really make any sense to me.
I wouldn't risk it, but it looks like they're going to do it anyways, and he's going to have a pretty tough lineup to go through because they're starting to heat up over there in Texas. They're seeing that the Seattle Mariners are fumbling the bag just a bit, and they're getting going.
And Heaney's been very good. Last 7 starts, he's got a ERA below 3. Strikeout numbers have been up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking the Cooch is going to lose his final start as a Toronto Blue Jay.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people in the chat right now going, yeah, like I'd trade him before the start. I wouldn't start him. I wouldn't risk it. And fuck, it's like it makes sense, right? Like why would you take this risk? But they're doing it anyways, unless of course the trade does transpire in the next 6 hours or so, which seems unlikely at this point, but you never know. I do think that Yusei Kikuchi is going to lose this one. The final Apple TV game of the year for the Toronto Blue Jays, and a final game of Yusei Kikuchi most likely for the Toronto Blue Jays. I think that Texas has it.
Wow, rep, guys. I think they're going to get destroyed. And then we move on to game 2, and you got Michael Lorenzen up against Kevin Gausman. Gausman hasn't been doing good.
Yeah.
Lorenzen's been okay, 4.26 ERA.
No, man, a 3.353. I don't know. That's Heaney. You're looking at Heaney right now.
Heaney?
Yeah. Lorenzen's been great. He's got a 3.53 ERA.
Or 4.26 in the last 7 days.
Games.
Yeah, last 7 games. I kind of like looking at the recency because it's like, okay, what are we expecting from lately? Whereas Gausman, as you know, has not been good. He's got a 5.49 in the last 7. I think we're going to lose this one too. I just think the momentum with the Texas Rangers is too great. They're 7-3 in their last 10. I think we lose another one.
How concerned are you about Kevin Gausman? Like, are we just kind of throwing this year in the trash and he'll be back to where he was next year? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I think this is like he has enough of a track record where you can warrant you could say that throw in the trash, but then again he'll be 34 next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing out of trade Jose Barrios and back in 2022. Let's get one more year out of you. But obviously, it's not great considering everything. I mean, all of our starting pitchers have gotten worse ERAs than last year.
Yeah.
So it's like, is it
significantly?
Significantly. So is it a team thing or is it a you thing? You got injured off top of the year. I'm gonna give him another year.
I'm definitely gonna give him another year. I think
before making my feelings.
No, I get that. I think that clearly walking into next year, right? The expectations for him that I have, they're lower, you know, and I don't know if we can kind of just lock him in and be like, you're going to be in the Cy Young race again.
Yeah, I can't say that.
I don't think we can say that next year, obviously, just based on maybe he finishes the year incredibly and, he goes on a crazy run, goes 9-1 or something in his final 10 starts. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am I'm worried a bit because of the age, and I'm worried a bit because of, the way that this season started. But, of course, being Kevin Gausman, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. You got to give him another year of, riding with him and hoping for the best.
Yep, another year. We'll see what happens 2025, buddy. And then we got on Sunday for the finale. You've got John Gray up against Jose Barrios, and I think John Gray has been scuffling too. Yeah, he's got a almost 7 ERA, but this is Jose Barrios.
Jose Barrios has been terrible.
Recently, man.
Man.
Very bad. 6.69.
How worried are you about Jose Barrios? This is a good question.
Yeah.
Are you more worried about Jose Barrios than Kevin Gausman? Like, which one do you think is you're more concerned about right now?
For next year or for
next year, for the future? Because again, both of them are on longer term deals.
I'd probably say Kevin Gausman in that case because he's older, getting paid a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably it. And then Barrios has actually had a better year, but I am still concerned that the way he's going, like his trajectory is like really bad in terms of his stuff. Plus, it's going down the hill. So. Yeah, I mean, it's all not great. We have our pitching staff, which was supposed to be our starting pitching staff, which was supposed to be our strength. It's falling apart.
Yeah,
it's not good.
Pulling up, Jose Barrios' baseball savant page, man. I mean, like that. This is what concerns me. I try not to. At the beginning of the season, he was doing very well.
It's all blue.
And these numbers didn't look good then. And then you go, okay, well, you know what? This means nothing because, what you're doing on the field is coming around. But now that he is doing poorly and, these numbers are still here, you start to go, okay, well, clearly this means something. And you guys can't see this right now, but his expected ERA is 5.13. That is where his ERA has been going recently. His expected batting average against is 274. That is really bad. That's in the bottom 15%. His average exit velocity is high. It is right up there, guys. He's not striking people out. He's not whiffing people at all. He's in the 11th percentile on whiff rate. So it's not like he's deceiving these people or making them chase a lot.
His stuff is falling off the table. It's not as good anymore.
That's and that is the most concerning thing, right? When you had a 2.5 ERA, we could obviously chalk it up and go, you know what? Well, maybe this is bullshit because what's happening on the field is going well, but now that the other shoe is dropping, these saber metrics are starting to make a lot more sense. And it's not like this is a new thing either, right? Like when you go back to 2023, these were a lot better. So, clearly there is a this is 2022 when things were terrible. So there is obviously a correlation between the way you are throwing the baseball and your results. Shocker, right? Shocker that happens.
Yeah, look, and that's another reason why in 2025, we're not going to compete because with these guys. I mean, what are you going to have? Barrios all of a sudden, oh, wait, actually, I'm fine. Gausman? Yes, I'm back to being Gausman again. Oh, and then Chris Bassitt, even though I'm like 36 now, I'm great still. I'm still great. And then who are you going to have? Who's the rest of your rotation? You're going to have Alek Manoah, who has a broken arm for the last 2 years. You're going to have Ricky Tiedemann, who's literally not even thrown 70-plus innings in a single season. It's bad. It's so bad, and that's why they should trade them.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. But either way, my concern level, just to finish that off, on Jose Barrios, it's getting up there, man. I obviously have a lot of hope for him, and I really I've always loved Jose Barrios and been in his camp. Yeah. I still think that some of the pitches that he throws, man, that two-seamers always looks filthy. But
they smack it.
You know what? As time has gone on, it hasn't looked as filthy as it used to. Guess what?
They're waiting for it and they're hitting it.
They are hitting it well. So he's got to be a lot better. So does Kevin Gausman. Final game, John Gray. Are we getting swept here?
I actually was going to say that we get swept because the vibes are so low with the team overall, and they know that this is probably the final series as a team together.
Yeah.
And they're gonna get swept.
I don't think that anyone is even thinking about the baseball anymore.
No.
I mean,
not at all. Not after the Chris Bassitt comments. I think it's pretty clear.
It is pretty clear. Nobody is thinking about the baseball anymore. Tonight, for instance, Yusei Kikuchi knows what is happening here.
Oh, of course.
This is not anything to do with Toronto. This is my final day auditioning for another team. In literally 48 hours time, I'm going to be on a plane with my significant other, looking for houses in fucking LA or, wherever I'm going. It's like that is what this means. So he's not mentally here right now. I don't think Justin Turner is either. Like, I mean, at this point, dude, like, he's a dad. You know,
yeah, he doesn't
like,
give a crap anymore. He's done
like,
after this year,
we've
dude.
done it. You know, so I just don't think people are mentally there right now. I'm gonna say, yeah, we get swept.
And you know what? It'll be nice. We'll give a nice standing. I think the fans in the 100 levels right behind the dugout are going to understand what this start means for Yusei Kikuchi, and you're going to see a lot of standing O's.
Of course.
You're going to know. It's going to be a good send-off.
As you should. I mean, like, listen, at the end of the day, when you look back at all of it, have I loved Yusei Kikuchi the whole time? No. But the Cooch absolutely got loose at certain times.
Yes, he did.
We were fucking excited about it when it happened, guys. So we are going to be right there watching on Apple TV live tonight with hopefully all of you folks for the final Yusei Kikuchi start, we think.
Yeah, we think. I also see someone in here saying that the odds are actually favored for the Texas Rangers to win. Excuse me, for the Blue Jays to win, and the underdogs are the Rangers, which is a great segue for the sponsor of this podcast.
Time for a quick shout out to Betway. Betway is the best place to make all of your sports bets on all of your favorite teams. Betway is also in collaboration with iGaming Ontario. Must be 19 years older to participate. And guys, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content.
Shout out to Betway, everybody, for being absolutely phenomenal. They are the place to go. We're putting our money where our mouth is,
dude,
right now, man.
I'm glad you said that because that's literally the bet. I thought we were going to get swept, and I think this game one is probably the most likely game that we're going to lose. You got a hot pitcher up against a very cold pitcher. Yeah, looking over here, the line's actually going up, folks. So if you're on Betway, hop on it now. It's 220 multiplier for the Rangers to win, which means you'll get 2.2 times your money, whatever you bet. In return, if the Rangers win outright, except if they go to extras, then you don't get it. It has to be before in regulation. That's easy for me. Smash. Easy. I'm gonna take this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take this.
Absolutely, man. I would as well, and I'm going to, man. So so there it is, folks. Those are our thoughts right now on the most recent trade reports going around across MLB. What it means for the Toronto Blue Jays. It is time to sell, and I hope that Russ Atkins and the management figures that out, man. Because right now they still haven't realized what type of market is going on and what really is going on with this team.
Yeah, the writing's on the wall, everybody. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Shout out to all of our Patreon members, all of our YouTube members, guys. You guys are absolutely awesome, and we hope to see y'all tonight.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and as always,
go Jays, go!